Hey, how are you?
Good. How are you guys?
Good, thank you.
Welcome.
You put your gum in the trash can like a professional. That was very nice. Threw it out.
I feel like you can hear everything. So I don't want to
Well, welcome. We're live.
be gross. Oh,
So-
we're live right now.
We're
They didn't
live
tell you?
live.
They're supposed to tell the guests before they come in.
Well, Roland just kind of mumbles everything.
No
so I
one knows
think-
what he's saying.
I think sometimes.
I think he said it. I'm just in a. Do I need to put these on?
You don't,
You don't
have,
have
to.
to.
Okay. All right.
Yeah. Just talking to the
You might
microphone.
miss some of my subtleties.
You don't want to miss
I might
Norton's
miss gum chewing.
subtleties.
Is that, you know?
Yeah. Yeah.
I've done it on the air. It's okay. But it was nice of you to not do it.
It's professional.
Yeah.
Thank you so much for having me.
Of
course.
course. Well, your book's out finally, right?
Yes.
I didn't know you had a book out. Nobody told me you had a book out.
Oh my gosh.
So I didn't
would have
know.
called you if I had your number.
Well, I would have. Well, CM has my number.
He does.
That's
All right.
right.
Well, next time.
I
The
would
next
have read
book.
it.
Is Jim the only person that calls your husband CM?
They call him Punk. I don't call him Punk. I call him CM.
You know what's interesting? We were just having this conversation that if you were not like super entrenched in wrestling, you might think it's really disrespectful to just call a grown man punk.
Right. I guess so.
So I see a lot of people tend to say CM.
Right. And
Yeah.
everybody's too afraid to say Phil because they're like, I don't know if I'm on that level.
Right.
Like, I don't.
Somebody asked me yesterday. They were like, "Do you call him punk?" And I was like, "What is wrong with you that you think?"
You call him Phil, right?
Yeah.
I don't know him. I wouldn't call him Phil. I don't know. I know him as CM Punk, so I'd call him CM. That's just.
Well, yeah. Well, you're not married to him.
What's the that's but that wasn't his choice. What's the CM stand for?
Yeah, that's true.
What does CM stand for?
I think it's supposed to be a mystery for the rest of time. So.
Yeah.
Oh, it was just the name.
Every interview I think he's ever done,
He
I
says
feel like.
something different
Yeah.
every
Oh,
time.
he does.
So I don't want to
Okay.
break that.
Right. Right.
Okay.
Yeah. You call him Punk. You still got his
Call him-
posters on the wall. You buy
Yeah.
his toys.
Yeah.
Like, yeah, totally.
I tweet him,
do you
like, what does
wrestle?
CM stand for?
Do you wrestle?
I did. Yes.
You did. Okay. How long ago?
I just retired 2 years ago, and that's when we
Oh.
started the book. But I did it for about a decade.
Oh, okay.
Yes.
The book took 2 years.
The whole process does. It took about a year to really get the actual book itself done. And,
Yeah. Because you wrote it with no ghostwriter.
Yes, which I
you.
overestimated my abilities and thought, oh, this is going to be so easy. And no ghostwriter, no co-writer. And then, maybe 2 days into it, I was just crying into my hair. And
Why
just
were you
stress
crying?
eating.
Was it hard to
It's
do?
the hardest thing I've ever done in my life.
What was hard? Was there anything in here that you like? As you start writing something, you're like, ugh, why did I open this can? What am I doing?
You know what? It was almost the opposite. I would send in these drafts and I would be ashamed that I wasn't more open. Because the book is supposed to be this kind of love letter to the positive side of mental illness and what you can take out of that. And I was still being kind of ashamed of it. And so I needed to keep going through all these drafts and really put out the darkest moments of my life, my biggest mistakes, and just get the courage and kind of sack up and do it.
Mental illness has been a big part of your family?
Yeah, it runs in my family. Bipolar disorder does. Depression does. My brother was a soldier. He has PTSD. It's something we're more susceptible to. And I was diagnosed with bipolar disorder around 1920. And so...
You don't
It was
look
a
that
long
old.
time
It's
ago.
a long time ago.
No, we're
And-
joking about the year 1920.
Yeah, it's like 100 years ago almost.
That
was
did
in
sound like we were being
1920.
dicks. We weren't.
Guys, I use a lot of moisturizer. I am very old.
When did
yeah.
you first realize you had something going on? Like, okay, 19 or 20, you got diagnosed, but when did you first realize, like, ugh, something's messed up?
I was telling someone the other day, I don't remember a time where where I didn't feel bipolar, where I didn't feel like there was something a little off. I was the weird kid that would drown her Barbie dolls and, solved every problem with violence, and I didn't understand why. I just thought that was normal. Violence.
You just go right to rage?
Yes, definitely. Violence was normalized. I would, hit kids in school all the time, and they were kind of afraid of the, tiny little bomb ready to go off. And so I think finding wrestling and using it as violence became an art form was a way to kind of release that and channel that energy.
The book is really like, I wasn't, because I figured, it's called Crazy is My Superpower, by the way, and it's out now. But I figured that it would not be a wrestling book because you'd left wrestling. It was going to be just your life. And so I was like, oh, that's interesting, because I didn't really know much about you from before wrestling. And like, I was like, I figured I'd skim the beginning and then get to the part. But I ended up reading the entire thing because like I couldn't believe the stories you were telling, especially when you would tell them like jovially. Like you talked about this like incident where your dad was beating up your mom and choking her, and like AJ walks in and sees her dad holding a TV over his head about to slam it on her mom. And I'm like, oh, this must be this moment where like the family falls apart, and she jumps in, stops it from happening, and within a few hours by that night everybody's happy and together again. And it was like that's I mean, you talk about normalizing things, like that's crazy.
Definitely.
Was he a drinker?
Yes.
Oh, he was drunk.
And that's why I don't drink.
Yeah. And he did drugs too, right?
There was definitely drug use and alcohol use in my family. And I think it all kind of stems from everyone having their own bouts of depression. And in my household, mental illness was not something we respected or acknowledged was real. And so everyone found their own way out. My mother went undiagnosed for most of her life until she had a breakdown, and there was no way to ignore it anymore. And so for me, the process of writing the book and kind of going back and reliving these traumatic memories was a way to forgive all of that stuff, realize that everyone was just dealing with these problems the wrong way, and to show people that you have to catch this stuff early and you have to treat it and respect its power, so it doesn't take over your life and you don't make these kind of decisions.
Would you get beaten up by your father, or was he more like violent towards your mom?
What I go through in the book is that my mother and I had more of a unhealthy relationship because of her bipolar disorder. She was more psychologically abusive to me, and the disorder controlled her. And you know, you grow up and you think you have this like movie villain in your house, and every moment is scary. And as I get older, I realize that I'm not angry at her. We failed her. Nobody stopped and got her help. We didn't, we were told that you had to be tough and ignore mental illness, and, depression is for pansies. And that's just not true. You're so much stronger if you can say, oh, something's wrong with me, I'm going to go fix it. If you have the courage to just admit something.
As long as someone's willing to help themselves, I think that's the key too.
Yeah.
Like, because with mentally ill people, and I've certainly dealt with enough myself, and I got my own problems, but if there's a certain thing where they use it and they're like, they expect to be, well, I'm mentally ill, you have to, and they don't want to help themselves. So if someone's willing to go, I'm going to take a step and try to fix myself.
And that's definitely the first step, is you acknowledging it and wanting help and reaching out to your support system that hopefully is listening and can help you out. It's a team effort, it really is, because it affects everyone.
That treatment thing, based on where you came from, had to be tough, like to actually go and get it treated. Because even there was a thing in the book too, when you're like a little kid and you get your head cracked open.
Right.
And you're like...
Wait, how did that happen?
My sister, who's here, is going to be mad at me for sharing this. She dropped me. We would kind of mess around, and she dropped me on my head. And I started to get really woozy. And then my mom came over and was like, why does your hair look so messy? And started combing my hair, and all of my hair started to fall out, and there's just blood everywhere. And we were just so afraid to be like, okay, something's wrong, or we need to go get help in any situation in life. And
right, like you were rewarded for not going to the hospital.
Not going to the hospital.
Like, it was like, yeah, you're tough. Good for you. We'll wrap it up and you'll be fine.
Put a towel on it.
So
sleep it off.
So you didn't get picked up by an ambulance, and then when they picked you up, you say, pray for me? I did that when I was a boy.
No, you didn't.
I told the story. Oh, you weren't here? I told you the other day?
I don't remember.
Maybe that was
it.
Monday I told the story.
Yeah, Sam was not here.
Oh, my God. What happened?
I got hit with a baseball. I'm sorry. I was referencing something, and in my head, I was 13, and blood gushed. And so I went home, and they called an ambulance. And I told my mother on the way, or the ambulance person, I'm like, pray for me.
What if your last words had been "pray for me"?
Then it would have shown how ineffective it is.
There you go.
Yeah,
There
exactly.
you go.
Oh, I thought you were here.
I had no idea. That's
Oh.
so pathetic.
Yes, it is. But how old were you when that happened?
Heartbreaking. Probably 5.
So as a 5-year-old
Six.
girl, you handled it better. Okay.
You were twice as old then.
Yeah.
And
No, more than 12. I was 13.
did your parents, like, when you said pray for me, did they react like, what?
I don't remember. I think I said it to one of the ambulance people.
Oh my
Oh my
so the
God.
ambulance people of all people knew there was nothing wrong with you.
You were
Yes,
like,
they
"This
did.
is it. I can feel it."
Yep.
I had a good run.
Yep.
But even that, like, if you're not getting treatment for a physical thing, like my head is cracked open, like, I can't imagine getting to the psychological place where you would think I should get treatment for mental illness.
Exactly.
Because it's invisible.
And, not only in just acknowledging mental illness is there's such a stigma around it, but growing up in this Hispanic household where everything is, about machismo and toughness, and also you grow up in such hardship. We got evicted more than 20 times. We were homeless. We lived in a car. We lived in a motel for almost 3 years. Hardships and pain was normal, and you just toughed through it and you didn't complain. And so to stop and be like, I'm sad and I need to recognize this, was the weakest you could possibly be in my family. And that's such ass backwards thinking.
Yeah.
And so that was something I had to kind of shake off. And the only way I actually started getting help was when it was sort of too late for my mother. My mother overdosed and ended up committed, and that was really my wake up call. Where I was like, okay, I can't end up there. I have to take care of myself and find my own way.
And so you're married to CM Punk now. You were there times when you first met where he would be like, "What's going on here?" Or did he know
Right, there's an
immediately,
episode
Right.
or would you have episodes that he would go like, what's happening? This is crazy.
We were really good friends for a long time before we ever dated, and so he knew. He knew what he was getting into. I like to say.
Okay, so that's the worst too, because he can't even be mad about it. He's like, all right, I signed up for it.
Yeah, I did.
It would have been great if I didn't tell him, and then we get married, and then like, ha, you bought this.
So will you just irrationally scream when you get upset, and will he go like, look, I know what this is, and not feed into it?
So I think like when I was younger, for sure, like everything was solved with violence, and everything was so volatile, and through actually getting treatment and going to therapy and being around the right medication, I feel like I have more of control over it. I'd say the thing that is a struggle every day is the depressive cycles. It's those cycles where you just wake up and you feel like you are covered in dark clouds, and you can't get off the bed, and you weigh 100 pounds heavier, and those days are the hardest. And he tries his best to help me through those days, and I just had one not too long ago, and my birthday was was a few days away, and it was my 30th birthday, and I was so excited. And I was bummed out that I was, basically going to miss my birthday because these cycles last maybe a week or two.
Oh.
And
But you know when you're in it, like you're
I know
aware.
when I'm in it now.
Yeah.
I think when I was younger, I would really throw a pity party and cry, but now I'm so educated about it. I know, okay, these emotions aren't real. Let's just power through it. And he was so great, and he surprised me and flew one of my best friends in to try to like lift my spirits for my birthday, and it worked. Sometimes you just need support.
Do you find with stuff like that, like when you're feeling like it's a physical feeling, it's a weird thing in your neck, down to your stomach. It's a head, like a thickness.
Yes.
And it's almost addicting. Like with getting angry, like if you get mad about something and then you start thinking about how I was slighted, that motherfucker, and I can feel but it feels good in a weird way. And it's hard not to do it just because it's like eating sugar or
Right.
doing something else crazy or sex or drugs. It's a rush, even though it's shitty.
Yes, definitely. And especially with bipolar disorder, there's two ends of the spectrum. There are depressive cycles and there are manic cycles. And so many people who are bipolar love their manic cycles because you are on top of the world. You have so much energy. You get stuff done.
And a lot of times people around them
Love
enjoy
it.
the
Yes,
manic
because
part.
Oh my
they're
God,
That's when
yeah.
they're captivating and
Yes.
fun and unpredictable and like.
And there is a lot to that. Like sometimes it does help like with creativity and like writing. It actually can be like a useful tool, but you have to be careful because there's a very thin line between that and being like, I'm immortal. I can run in front of this car. Like it really gets there really fast.
At what point did you like really? Because I've people in my family that are close that are bipolar, and the most difficult part for us and really for them is balancing medication and that feeling of you get the right balance, you feel better, you stop taking the medication because you think you're better.
Right.
And it's just this cycle that just continues on, and it almost becomes one of these like sad things where even when it's good, you're like, it's good today. Like,
right.
You know what I mean?
Exactly. And that's the thing why people get so overwhelmed and they don't want to even start treatment. I think I just read a stat on NAMI.org, who I'm partnering with now, so I'm super proud of that, the National Alliance for Mental Illness. But I read a stat on their website that said that most people wait 10 years to start getting treatment after their symptoms start, which is insane, but that is what I did too. So it's so hard for people to just commit because they know it is a process and it's something that you have to fight every day and take care of every day, and it doesn't stop. There is no cure, but there's treatment and you have to commit to it.
But when you you take medication. It's always scared me to take anything because I know those manic states and because I'm like, it's gonna fuck with my creativity. I'm not gonna be able to think as clearly. I don't want to be one of those people who's medicated with spittle in the corner of their mouth. You know those people that whenever they talk, they're like, I feel really great, and they get like that dry spit. You're like, oh. Those psychic, how are you? Very even. Oh, fuck yourself. It's just a scary way to be.
People are so afraid of feeling like a robot, and sometimes when you start medication, it can feel like that. There is a bit of a fog, maybe the first week or two, but you just get past that, and then it kind of everything evens out and falls into place. But those first kind of steps can be so demoralizing to people because it doesn't work right away. So it is something you have to commit to, and hopefully have a support system that convinces you to just keep taking it, keep trying, find the right dosage. I see it like a balance scale. It especially with when you find the right dosage, you just instead of being all over the place, you find a nice, comfortable balance between it.
What do you do when you get like when you were working for WWE? If you would go through one of those cycles where you don't feel like you can get out of bed, I mean, the WWE is kind of known for stopping for no one.
Right.
So is that something? Do you have to power through it? Do you explain to people like this is what's going on with me?
Well, no one knew. It was something I kept very close to the vest. Only the closest people to me that would travel with me or hang out with me, and I would tell them. I was lucky enough to have really good friends on the road that I would tell them, okay, look out for me today. Make sure I don't kill anyone. But it was the kind because I have committed to a perfect combination of therapy and treatment. I do feel like I am able to handle the stress of that, and I am able to power through when I am having a bad day.
How did it feel to watch CM fight in UFC, to take such a jump from wrestling to that?
Oh gosh, it was a mix, so many different emotions all at once, such a cornucopia of emotions. I am someone who believes in going for whatever your dream is. I was the homeless kid in New Jersey, and then I ended up as a multiple time champion on TV. And people would have laughed at me when I was a kid if I would have said that was my dream. So for him to want to do something so bold, I supported him 100%. But it's, I really like his face. So I didn't.
You didn't want him to get punched in it.
Yes. But, I was just so proud of him for doing it.
But is it like as a spouse, is it more difficult to watch him do that because you could watch him wrestle, but that it's dangerous, but the guy who's across from him is not, hopefully, trying to hurt him.
Right.
Whereas, like, I'm now watching my husband in a situation where that guy who's a professional wants nothing more than to
knock him out.
Yeah, inflict damage onto this person. Is that like
yeah, that was definitely the weirdest thing, was just even like the kind of the months leading up, just knowing that there's this person out there in the world that their only thought is hurting your husband. That is what their game plan is for months. And that's their job, and I respect the sport so much, and I think they do a wonderful job, but it's
Did you go to the fight?
I did, and I wasn't going to go. I was going to watch from backstage, and like the last second, I was like, okay, I'll sit ringside. So I sat ringside, and I sat with one of Phil's sisters, and and then just got out of there right when it was done. And
what did you say after? Because it was, again, the guy he fought, Mickey Galt, was just he's a jiu-jitsu guy. It's a hard thing to beat when a jiu-jitsu guy grabs you. I mean, even though, CM Punk's a very tough dude, it's just hard to take 9 years of jiu-jitsu and put it, you can't do it. It's just very hard. So what happened afterwards when you guys go backstage? Because he seemed to handle it okay.
Yeah. I mean, I think that there's probably, I don't think it hurt that, for one night of working, you get paid $1 million. Like, he was pretty psyched about that.
Yeah, believe me, I'd let Mickey Galt kick me in the mouth for $1 million. Yeah, of course.
Yeah, so he came backstage with the most giant smile on his face, and he was incredibly sweaty, and I just threw myself on him. I was like, I'm so freaking proud of you. And his speech was just so moving, and I try not to get emotional in front of people. So we just kind of went to our little corner, and I was like, that was so fucking cool. I'm so proud of him.
Does he want to fight again?
Yes.
Does he have one lined up? Because I've been hearing rumors here and there.
He wants to fight again, and I'm never going to be the person that stops someone from doing whatever their dream is. So I support it. I'm just, I just look at his face right now and I'm like, okay, stay that way, stay that way, stay that way.
There's also got to be this amazing feeling because, like, you know above anybody, like, what the WWE schedule is, which is, like, you can psychologically build towards this thing.
Mm-hmm.
It's over, and the next night, like, it's just never ending.
Right.
Whereas with this one, like, he trains, he fights, and, like, regardless, it's over now. Like,
Right.
there's, like, I can start thinking about the next thing, but it's not like tomorrow I have to be ready to just
it again.
continue on with the
Yeah.
show relentlessly.
Definitely. And I feel like there is, there is a give and take. There's one thing with like writing a book, I have to wait 2 years to know how people are going to receive it. And in wrestling, you get that instant
Quick
gratification.
fix, yeah.
And so like that's a different kind of ride to go on.
Yeah.
But there is something so wonderful about just being calm and being, going to your own bed at night and waking up and not having to peel yourself out because you're so hurt. So there is a piece that I think neither of us really knew through our home lives or through our work lives because everything has just been so hectic and gypsy-like and moving at 100 miles an hour. And so to finally have that calm place called home is different, and we're getting used to it.
Yeah. I've been curious for a long time because, like, I met you a long time ago.
Yes.
Like, I met AJ.
Do you really remember meeting him though?
Yes, I do.
Okay, Sam's like, she's not gonna remember me. I'm like, she will.
I
dude.
didn't say that. I met her in Rahway, New Jersey,
Yep.
like before she was in WWE, like wrestling in one of these tiny shows. And I remember like she's sitting there just trying to get on this
That
show
show.
in Rahway.
Mhm.
And like a year later or so, or however, not terribly much later, she pops up on TV in NXT and like this whole thing starts. But like, I don't know if it's a question about psychologically or because I worry for myself. Like, how do you get to a place where you realize that this thing that you always considered was a lifelong dream, which is wrestling, like this is what I want to do with my life, is, oh wait, this might just be a chapter.
Oh gosh.
You know what
yeah. And I talk about that in the book that there's something gratifying about chasing something and chasing it and being like, okay, one day I'm going to get that. And it's kind of like if your dog is like trying to chase a squirrel and then like, what is he really going to do when he gets it, when he catches it? And so for me, there were so many moments in my life where it was just about getting signed. It was just about like getting a job that I could help support my family. And then it happened. And then I was like, oh, okay, well now I have to make new life goals. And I literally wrote a list. And I was like, these are all the things that I need to accomplish in wrestling. And this might take me a decade, but this needs to happen or I'll never leave. And then I did them all in like 3 years, a lot of them within the first year. And you kind of are left in this place where I think people like struggling in a weird way. People are a little masochistic and they want to have something to be angry about or have to keep fighting for. And when you are content, that's a strange feeling. And so you have to say, okay, what is the next goal? What's the next big thing I need to accomplish while I'm still healthy and still young and can still have opportunities? So for me, it was, okay, I lived this life of hardship. It had to have been for a reason. It has to have been so I can share my story. And that's when this started kind of becoming real.
So you treated this isn't just like, well, I don't want to wrestle anymore, so I got all this time, so I'm just going to write this book. This is like, you treated this the same way. Like, this became the new dream,
Yeah.
just getting a book on the shelf.
Yeah, I went to NYU for a solid 6 months.
Did you really? What did you want to major in?
I was studying film and television, and I wanted to write screenplays. So my whole life, I was always writing stories because I loved comic books and I loved video games. And so writing about those in that realm of fantasy was my escape from my reality. So it was always my strength, and it was always my safe place. And so I went to study that in school and got kicked out and started wrestling.
Why'd you get kicked out?
I couldn't afford it.
Oh,
School's
money,
really
okay.
expensive, and I was very poor. Very hopeful, but very, very poor.
Were you a good screenwriter?
I think I had straight A's my first semester.
What's the name of one of the things you wrote, like one of your titles?
Just the title.
Yeah, I want to know what the title is. Yeah.
I can't remember. I cannot remember. But I will probably make them now
you're
because
gonna write
I
them
have
down.
practice now. So writing has always been, before my body was my weapon, my brain was. And so it's always been a goal to kind of get back to that thing that I found strength and comfort in. And I wasn't sure if I could do it. And I did it all on my own, and it's been getting such positive reviews and reaction that I feel like I have become an author through this, and I want to keep writing. I'm working on my second book now.
What's that about?
Is it a follow-up? Or
It is a follow-up,
Yeah.
and it does go more into fitness and how you can kind of create your own therapy, and how that really helps. You can really formulate your own type of therapy to healing with any sort of stress or depression or mental illness. And it will have ridiculous stories like this one does.
Well, that's great though that you're talking about that stuff. A lot of people, kind of keep it
Oh yeah.
quiet, but then you look at how people had fucked up childhoods, and it's like, yeah, a lot of people
A
have.
lot of people do, and you get so ashamed and you bottle it up. And if I can put it out there and I can talk about the darkest stuff while like throwing in a dick joke or two, I think that makes people listen a little bit more.
My whole life you just described, yeah. So, were your parents living?
Yes, they are.
Okay, are they kind of healthier now? Or are they both still messed up?
They're both a lot healthier and calm and content. And I think, being calm and content is worrying for them, because it's something they were never used to. So I'm just trying to get the whole family to be comfortable being happy.
How do they feel about your book and the things you talked about?
I hope they're okay.
Oh, they haven't read it?
They have not read it.
Oh, you had to mention the TV.
Oh my lord. That is a thing. I do kind of, this comes out into the world and I'm like, okay, who am I rubbing the wrong way? But at the end of the day, it's going to help more people. And I don't care, what it does to me. I need it to help people, and I'm willing to kind of expose myself for that.
And the book is called It's Crazy As My Superpower. AJ Mendez Brooks is who we're talking to. I mean, people know that, but if you're just tuning in.
What was it like when you started making real money? Because, I mean, you really, in your 3 years, you were extraordinarily successful. So, like, when money starts to come to you and also to your family that never really had it,
Right.
was that a difficult thing to inject into the equation?
I think definitely. My sister and I were always the parents to our parents, and as like emotionally and like working at a supermarket to fill the fridge. And so then when I was making real money, it became okay. Now you can do everything, and so that was a balancing act. So I felt like I've had children my entire life, but it was really cool, and you never stop feeling like a poor girl. So I never, I still shop at Target, and like I'm happiest there.
It's always like if you compensate in one of you either spend everything because you're so
Yes.
excited, or you don't spend anything because you know it's just going to disappear.
Exactly.
Which do you do?
I think I appreciate money, and I know how fleeting it can be, and I will never be where I was ever again, and I'll make sure of that.
Do you ever did you have to deal with Reggie Jackson said when he made money from the Yankees that he would allow everyone in the family to come to him once for money. Like, you can come to the well one time and that's it. Make it good. And I'll see if I can help you if I don't. So did you have people calling you all of a sudden like you're like, oh Christ, this?
Yeah, definitely. I like all of a sudden gained a bunch of like cousins I didn't know I had.
Right.
Everybody starts reaching out on Facebook and finding you. Yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah, but I think I should have implemented that, and I might now. I'll be like, all right, you have one more, everybody. But yeah, I think that is rough because you want to be a caretaker, and if one of you succeeded, you want to bring everyone with you. But you also have to know the balance of you have to take care of yourself first before you can take care of anyone else.
Yeah.
But yeah, we don't. My husband as well. He grew up poor too, and we don't take our money for granted. We're very careful. And
That's smart.
Yeah, I think so. I'll spend money on video games till the cows come home, but that's about it.
That's a luxury you could let yourself, like, as long as you're not buying, Porsches
Yeah,
or
I
just
mean-
different houses. I love people who have 8 houses. What are you fucking doing? You can't. You're gonna
Yeah.
sell
A lot
most
of
of
it's
them.
like a status thing, and we don't give a shit what people think about us. So like, we're happy with what we have.
Chicago, right? You
Yes.
guys are.
Do you guys? I guess you and Punk would be in the same boat.
CM.
As do you guys go through moments where you miss not everything associated with the business, but that crowd reaction to what you're doing? Like where you're just sitting there being like, it'd be nice right now to just be in the ring in front of, even if it's, I mean, it could be 70,000 people, it could be 15 people that are just reacting
Right.
to something cool that you're doing. Because there's nothing, know that there's that much of a replacement for it. I mean, there's the one fight, which was probably what felt like that rush again, but that's...
But there's nothing like that every single day
Exactly.
for 300 days a year. I mean, I think him and I have differing views on that for sure. My heart is always going to have this giant place for wrestling, and so I'll always miss that moment right in the ring when you feel the energy from the crowd. There's nothing that can replace that. But I think you need to also appreciate the different kinds of happy there are. So I have positive memories of that, and I miss the fans, and so doing these like autograph signings and seeing these people that I've seen for the past 7 years is the coolest thing in the world to me. So it's nice to kind of see them again.
But he's okay without the crowds. Because you said you had differing.
He's very okay. But I do want to mention, I hope everyone comes out to Tribeca tonight.
Yes, all the book signings that are happening. You got a book signing in Tribeca tonight?
We are in Tribeca, Barnes & Noble tonight, and then we're in New Jersey tomorrow.
Are you at Bookends in New Jersey?
Yes, tomorrow.
It's an independent bookstore in Inglewood, right? Where is it?
Ridgewood.
Ridgewood, sorry. Yeah, it's a great independent bookstore.
Bookend, yep. And then back to Illinois on Saturday, and then April 11th in Chicago, and April 13th you're in Austin. So you're back on the road.
I am, and it feels so strange. Like, and right away I was like, oh, I forgot what not sleeping felt like. Oh,
yeah.
This is awful.
So were you good
worth it.
Were you good on the mic when you were like? Did you have a good? The mic.
Yeah, I would say that was my strongest point.
It was okay.
Yes.
Yeah, I've always thought I should have done that just because I was so good.
You think you're good on the mic?
Yeah, with that stuff, yeah.
Like, what type of stuff would you do?
Bow out, wrestle you. I would just shout it. Whatever.
Can you cut a promo? Have you cut a promo?
Many promos. Many promos.
Like, what would you say?
Depends on who I'm wrestling.
Like, let's say you're wrestling like let's say superstar Billy Graham had taken your title.
Yeah, I just go get my belt back. You stole my belt. I do a very good Dusty Rhodes. He was my favorite wrestler as a kid.
Dusty was awesome.
Yeah, he
That's
was
a
great.
bad Dusty Rhodes.
Not a bad Dusty Rhodes.
Okay.
Yeah,
Any effort I appreciate.
I know hard times. I'm very good. People are jealous.
It's really, really bad.
Yeah,
It's really
she knows
bad.
It's good. She knows.
So do you? Since you have differing points of view, that's got to be difficult. Do you have moments where you're like, oh, I kind of want to turn on this match I watched growing up, or I kind of want to see what's going on TV, while your husband's like, don't put that shit on in my house.
Oh my gosh. Well, I can't watch myself on TV. Like that started to give me real anxiety. But for me, and I've said this a few times, but it sort of feels like if you go through this like healthy mutual breakup, no matter like how okay it is, you're not hanging out right after. You know, you are taking some space, and you're like, I hope they find someone. That
I
can
never
heal
do
them.
after a breakup. I'm like, I hope they die in a fire. And I find someone.
Yeah. Jim hopes they find somebody as he's waiting outside their apartment window.
Exactly. I hope they find somebody and they're miserable. I hope I find a nice person.
Either way, you're probably not getting coffee.
Right.
So that's sort of what it feels like. So so much of my life was being a fan, and like I would love to get back to that feeling and that suspension of disbelief.
But you're not quite there yet.
I'm not there yet,
Needs
but
more
I hope
space.
I can be one day for sure.
Yeah. Well, you got as close as one can possibly get. So in order, you have to distance yourself that much before you can.
What do they say? How long it takes to break up? Half the time in the relationship to get over it.
Right.
All right. There you
Yeah.
go.
You get 10 years, so that's 5 years at least.
We have to.
Man. Yes.
We have 1 minute left.
Well, we have to wrap up, but the book really is good.
Thank you.
You did
so
a
much.
really great job, and the stories are like, it's funny. There's one thing that just made me giggle. Like you were sitting there with your brother watching wrestling, I think, and it was like the first time your brother had said anything like nice to you.
Right.
He was like, he said something like, "Oh, do you think that's cool?" And little kid AJ just responds like, "Yeah," and she just starts talking up a storm and asking if they want to share friendship bracelets. And
Yes. I was desperate for his approval. That's what started all of this.
There's a lot of really funny stories, and as a wrestling fan, I will tell you that the family stuff is my favorite part of the book.
Wow,
So
that's
I thought
awesome.
it was really, really good. So Crazy is My Superpower. It's out now, and check out the book signings.
AJ Brooks on Twitter. If you
yes.
want to find the signings, I'm sure you.
And AJMendezBrooks.com has all the listings for
Yes.
the book tour.
And thank you very much. This was fun.
Yeah, and congrats
Thank you
on
guys.
everything.
Thank you for having
Yes.
me.